first year is fine.
Yeah, but the women, I'm gonna just take the dividers, and I'll slide them in over here.
That's
Over
what
here.
I
And one will sit over there.
hope I was up the last year. This is much of a ball not to do right now. If I know.
We're on the same ways.
Right now you're bold.
Same price as mission, yeah? Get the sweat out over here. Put your feet up.
You know, Sam, like there's just so much bandwidth. You know what I mean?
It's good to see everybody, Baruch Hashem. Hashem. Okay, it's been a while. We're returning to a good place. Just as we're returning to a good place in Bayam Darkecha, we should return to our place in the world, as Hashem. So we're in the Maimer of Simcha. That's where we were throughout the month of Adar. We began during the month of Adar. We're on page Kuf Nun Beis, Siv Gimel Manikra Kishlein, or they'd probably say Nesel Kishalom. We say Kishlein. Manikra Kishlein. The Maimer, this part of the Maimer Perek Beis, we're talking about the thoughts that get in the way of our Simcha, the thoughts that get in the way of Simcha. And the Svar HaKadoshim are very, very clear about this. And we all know from our own experience that the strongest, most destructive thought that gets in the way of Simcha is the past. But we can't get out of the past. Worrying about the future also plays a role in disrupting our Simchas Achayim. But unquestionably, thoughts of the past, not just sad memories, but primarily memories of our own failures in the past. And therefore, the result of that inability to tear ourselves away from the past, to live in the present moment, and to appreciate what we have, and to be able to mizdabek Takash Baruch Hu right now, takes away our Simchas Chaim. But the question here, of course, is a very, very big one, and we've all had to struggle with this. That it's very, very clear when you learn the Moshe Svarim, and when you learn the Svar HaKadoshim as well, it's very, very clear that Hashem Yisborach wants us to make a cheshbon nefesh. It's not, the world's not hefker. But Sam, I did something wrong, therefore kilu zelohaya, like it never happened. And one could get the impression sometimes when you hear certain Torahs, you can get the impression that avar ayin, that's a famous saying. The source of that is not 100% clear, but avar ayin, is that true? The past ayin, it's gone. There are tikkunim that need to be made, and the tikkunim that need to be made depend upon our memory. We have to remember. We have to reflect upon the past. It's a very, very big avodah. It's part of our being honest and ehrlich Yidden is to remember the past. So here's where we find a very big difference in the world of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Baal HaYilula, and in the world of the Baal Shem HaKadosh and Talmid Baal Shem, where, of course, they all agreed that we have to remember the past. We have to reflect upon our mistakes and our faults. Nobody disagrees with that. Nobody disagrees with that. That's 100% clear. It's all over Tanakh. It's all over Chazal. And we have to go back to the past. The difference is, and here that we saw from the Tanya and other tzaddikim, the difference is that when it comes to the past, a person has to be kaveh azman. He has to be in control of himself to set aside time to reflect upon the past, as opposed to allowing the past to continuously infiltrate into his present. There's a very big difference. There's a very big difference between a person who lives in the present and is filled with the simcha of his life, is filled with the opportunity that this moment presents him with of being mizdabek to Hashem and being filled with emunah and filled with hope for the future, who sets aside a certain time, a specific time, where he's going to reflect upon the past for the purpose of correcting the past, not nostalgia, and not because he's intent on getting stuck and returning to the past, but he wants to correct the past. And the way to correct the past is to have a time when the person reflects upon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us certain times of the year. Erev Rosh Chodesh is Yom Kippur Katan. Erev Shabbos is a Bechina of Tshuva. Every Erev Shabbos there's a Bechina of Tshuva that we see in this farm. And of course, Elul, so on, Shon Kippur, Sesame Tshuva, Shon Rabbah, there are Kviyas Manim. It's not that a person should live in the past. Because Baruch Hu does not want us to live in the past. Because Baruch Hu wants us to live in the present, filled with hope for the future. But He wants us to set aside exact and clear and specific times to think of what went wrong and to try to come up with ways to get advice and to look at the svarim of how to be misaking of what happened, and then that time ends and it's finished. Now that's not so pushing. It's something that a person has to work on. What does that mean to finish? The way that most of us grew up is that thoughts are just, whatever thoughts are there. And I can't finish a thought. That's a matter of tremendous self-discipline. And one of the very big yesaitis, of course, of all of Tanya, and especially in Chabad and all the tzaddikim, of how to have that self-discipline, where the moich is shayla del halev, where the mind is in control, and the person is able to say, Ad kan. Ad kan. The yesod of all of this is that the cheshbon hanefesh is not an activity of sadness, of misery. The cheshbon hanefesh is an avodah of tikkun, of fixing. And the Svarim HaKadoshim tell us, we see the Chavetz Chaim spoke about this a lot. No, the tzaddikim spoke about this, that the ikar of cheshbon hanefesh, the ikar avodah of that time that is set aside reflecting is not, I'm such a rosh, I'm such a rosh, I'm such a rosh. It's not to define or to redefine yourself as somebody who's incapable of good, but to focus on what happened, what went wrong, and how it can be repaired. Without all the drama, and without all of the despair, it's an avodah of tikkun, of fixing. So this is the yesod of the mahalach of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh based upon the Zohar HaKadosh in when it comes to avar ayin. Nevertheless, there are some nikudot adinot, there are some edel nikudas as far as how to make a distinction between the level of kishleinis, the level of failure that took place. There's a difference between a person who is chalila over serious things, on daraisis, whatever. So over and clear averis daraisis drabanans, which requires that cheshbon nefesh and tikkun. In other words, which requires set times for trips back to reflect and to think, as opposed to much of our misery that comes from not going back to fix necessarily averis derais draman, but the obsession that a person has with chumras, with certain stringencies, that to begin with were not necessary or not even healthy for him to adapt, to take at that time in his life, to adapt at that time in his life. And other certain hanhagis and ways of thinking that we don't let go of, and we should let go of completely. And in regard, that's what we're going to learn right now, and in regard to a lot of the behaviors that we make ourselves crazy about, they weren't averos to begin with. We made them into averos. Or something that you saw in a sefer, or something that you heard that somebody is doing, and you wanted to be like that, and you made yourself totally crazy. So here, there's an avodah of ha'avar ayin, to say goodbye completely to what's unhealthy in the past. We can't do that when it comes to a person. If a person is Mechal Shabbos, he can't say, "I'm happy it never happened. I heard about the B'ditzvah loved everybody. I love myself, and all these diburim, and to Ivdos Hashem b'simcha, Mechal Shabbos. It has to be taken care of very, very thoroughly. There's something that happened. There's an enemy. The enemy has to be completely destroyed. You don't leave the enemy behind. Only idiots do that. The enemy has to be completely destroyed. So, but there are many things in life that we think are enemies, and we created certain Amalekim and certain Hamastik. It's not really Amalek. It's not really Hamas. It's not. I mentioned yesterday that there was a young man that came to speak to me the other day in Yerushalayim, that because of his upbringing, he believes that unless he learns for 12 hours a day, he's worthless. Well, he made that into some kind of an enemy. That picture of that other people created. He's not chayiv to be in that place. That's not something that he should. It's not something that he has to fix. He has to find a way of living that works for him, that's healthy for him, within the gather of Avodas Hashem, and keeping Torah mitzvahs in the right way. It's not chayiv to do that. So there are many things like that in life that appear to be kishloinis, that appear to be a failure. Somebody was telling me before Pesach, somebody was saying to me that he was very, very, very depressed because he had a 3-year record of never missing Tefillah B'tzibur, and something came up with his brother, that his brother was in rehab out of town, and he went out of town and he couldn't get where there was this rehab. There wasn't a minyan any place, and he broke his record, and he's very, very upset about it. So you went to help your brother. So your brother's someplace in Arkansas somewhere. So you shouldn't. But listen, this is what it does. So you shouldn't go see your brother who's dying, Lo Aleinu, who's sick. You shouldn't go see him to give him chizuk because of your record. Because you want to get like in the Guinness Book of World Records for unbroken, the Lou Gehrig of Mincha or something. So I know there's somebody after Lou Gehrig. I don't remember his name. Huh? Oh, Ripken. Yeah. So that's an inyan of zich. That's your inyan. That's yourself. That's not Hashem. You made that into a thing with the record, and to be in that place. And I can account that you're upset that you went to see your brother, and you looked into it. So there was no Chabad around anywhere near that place, and you had no minyan. Okay, no, so that's was. So what happened? So you go to the wall someplace, and you daven mincha again. So because of that, you're all upset, and I worked so hard, and everywhere I was at work, I always went and I found the minyan, and he's all upset about this. Instead of feeling proud that he went to talk to his brother, and he gave him some chizuk. But this is how it operates. This way of thinking. So on page Kufnun Beis. Man Nika Kishlon. What does it mean a Kishlon, a failure? What does it mean? All that we've been talking about until now, to make a cheshbon nefesh at set times and so on, all of that is talking about a situation where a person knows bebira, where it's clear, he knows bebira, shenichshal, it's clear that there was something that he did that was wrong. There was something wrong. However, what happens sometimes with certain people, quite often, is that the Yetzer Hara itself is enclosed in this religious thing of a cheshbon nefesh, like this guy that went to see his brother. It's like it's a religious thing, mincha and minyan. So it's mislavesh. All of those thoughts that he had about how could I have messed up with minyan, it's from the Yetzer Hara. It's not from the Yetzer Hara. It's not coming from a healthy, good place. It's coming from a very, very bad place inside of it. That's where it's coming from. It was coming from a place of serving himself, not serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're going to see your brother. So it's not coming from a good place. Stam bilbulim. It's just a bilbul. It's confusion. And the Yetzer Hara works in such a way, in a very, very like Yaakov in Yisrael, telling me had Och mi had Esav, right? So tzaddikim say, when Yaakov is saving me from my brother from Esav, that you have to be very, very careful when Esav is dressed up like your brother. So here, like in this case with the guy that went to the rehab, so that thought that I messed up and I disappointed Hashem or something, that's really Esav. It's just dressed up like it's his brother, like it's somebody that's talking to him about Yiddishkeit, a tzaddik, as Yetzer Hara is saying, you have to become better. You should have figured out somehow how to make mincha, whatever it is. So it's all Esav, but Esav's talking the lashon of a brother, but it's not your brother. You have to identify the enemy. It's Esav. It's Stam Bilbulim, Narishkeit. You don't negotiate with Esav. You don't talk to Esav. You have nothing to do with it. I'm finished. You don't go through that. You don't think about that at all. Sometimes a person does something, again, like this guy that he went to visit his brother. And all of a sudden Yetzer Hara comes to you and tells you, no, this is not Peseder. This is not Peseder. What you're doing is not Peseder. Why did you do that? So then, this is especially when it comes to when you're younger, in yeshiva, and all kinds of, you hear in the yeshiva all kinds of different shittas, and you see that certain guys in the yeshiva, that they have chumras. This is very much a part of growing up in that world. That the person that didn't grow up in yeshivas can't understand really what that's all about. But when you're in yeshiva and you grow up, I'm not talking about when you're an older person, you go to learn a little bit. There also it's a challenge, but when you're growing up as a kid, when you're very, very impressionable, and you're very vulnerable, and you hear all kinds of shittas from different people, some rebbeim, Talmid Chacham that are there, or you see certain guys in the yeshiva that are in a certain, that have certain chumras, stringencies, and so on, and what you picked up is they're nearly shittas sheza'asa. So what you pick up is that you heard that there are certain shittas that say that this particular type of an activity is also. It's forbidden. or even if they don't, even if it doesn't come out that it's usher, but what came out is that it's not. This is not. This is not something which is proper for a ben Torah. This is not something which is befitting a ben Torah. It could be something as silly as the color of a shirt, right? It could be something as silly as that, depending upon what kind of yeshiva it is. The color of a shirt. This is not. It's not proper that a ben Torah should have a shirt that has a color. It's only proper that ben Torah should wear a white shirt. And then then of course you see a picture of Moshe Feinstein with a striped shirt, and you're wondering what happened. How come no one spoke to him about being a ben Torah? Moshe wasn't a ben Torah, and or Rav Gustman, something like that. So then it didn't come to you in a way that it's usher, because who in his right mind would say that it's usher? So to say that it's usher to wear a colored shirt. But it came out in such a way that he picked this up over time. This is pasnish. This is not proper for a ben Torah to wear such a thing. It's not proper. Yesh kan sofek ulai nechshalta. So you have a suffix over here. This is what's now in your head, this Esav. That ulai nechshalta, that maybe you failed, or whatever. You didn't have mincha and a minyan, whatever it is. Ulai nechshalta. Maybe Taka failed. And then it gets more serious. It looks like you made a mistake, and as a result of that, you cause the following things to happen. Then you have the superstitious types that say, well, because I wore a colored shirt, that's why my parnasa didn't work out. Or because I didn't stick to that chumrah that I had, because of that, my kid got sick. And these are not uncommon things that we hear and that the person thinks about. See, the Yitzhahara, when it comes like Esav, when he comes like your brother, he's coming to talk like your brother, but it's really Esav. The whole tachlis here is lahapilas adam, is to crush you, is to destroy you. For what? For nothing. I think it's not real. Lios Atzav, to bring you to a place of atzvus, and when you're in that place of atzvus, of sadness, then you start to see all kinds of deraises and derabbanans disappearing. Which is what happens to a lot of the guys in yeshiva or after yeshiva. Then the deraises and derabbanans are all over the place. You start to mess up with all kinds of serious things because of something that began. Somebody told you that what kind of yeshiva bacha plays ball, what kind of yeshiva bacha ever went to see a ball game. These kind of things is the stuff that we used to when we were growing up. And you become sad, and you feel bad about yourself, and you feel bad about yourself, then the other things, much worse than going to a ball game, other things start to happen in your life. Therefore a person has to know a real pure cheshbon nefesh, the cheshbon nefesh that tzaddikim wanted, that the Ramchal wanted from us, the Baal Tanya wanted from us, the Nefesh Chaim, all the tzaddikim, a real cheshbon nefesh, a makara tahar, that comes from a pure place. Urak cheshbon she'ena mevil atzvus. There's only a cheshbon nefesh that does not lead you to despair, to depression. Any cheshbon nefesh that leads you to depression is not a real cheshbon nefesh. It's an Esav. It's just Esav. Because atzvus, sadness, takes away all that you have. Elul hepach. A real cheshbon nefesh, you'll know when it's a real cheshbon nefesh, because a real cheshbon nefesh, the cheshbon nefesh that Chazal wanted, that the tzaddikim wanted, is mevi l'schaskus. It doesn't mean that it cheers you up, because sof kol sof you're reflecting upon failures. But a real cheshbon nefesh should lead to determination, and to look forward to being to moving forward and being better. Mevi l'schaskus. V'garim la'adam lahachlit And a real cheshbon nefesh brings a person to make a decision. Me'achshav es ametz yoseh. From now on, I'm going to try harder. I don't know if it'll be perfect, but me'achshav es ametz yoseh. From now on, I'm going to try harder. But tnufa chadasha with a new chiyas. Tnufa means to shake something, to move in that way. That is the desired objective of a cheshbon nefesh. His chazkes, and to move forward with omets, with making a ma'amatz, an effort to improve. So that's the purpose of a cheshbon nefesh. Even when it comes to Yom Kippur, on a deeper level, I talk about this even with Tisha B'Av. It's not for now to talk, but that's all Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants. Even that's why everybody says it's the strangest thing. There are certain people that can never ever deal with the reality of Shabbos Nachamu following Tisha B'Av, because they would prefer that Tisha B'Av continue on, and the Tisha B'Av just goes straight into Elul, and because that's what else is there to live for except for misery. So the hardest thing for these people is that Hashem wanted that even by the afternoon of Tisha B'Av there's already an Orav Nechama. Or like I say, every Tisha B'Av, I always make a point to say over from the Heilige Kardan of the Tzaddik who was dancing on Tisha B'Av, and even the Chassidim thought that was like, even for Chassidim it's too much, like he was dancing on Tisha B'Av, and they asked him, L'simcha Mazois, and he said, the Rebbe said that Hashem wants us to be said on Tisha B'Av, so I want, it's a mitzvah of Avelus, so I have to be a kind of mitzvahs b'simcha. So try to explain that to someone. What is that? I have to be said b'simcha. What was he saying? To be said b'simcha. That a heart of a Jew can contain two things. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai already said that a long time ago. That there are two parts, and a person can do such a thing. But what the tzaddik was saying is that, what do you think, Tisha B'Av, I'm supposed to, this is what Tisha B'Av is, to get stuck on the ground? And to be crying? That's what it means to be a Yid? To be sitting on the ground and crying? The tachlis of Tisha B'Av is also what? Is chazkes. The tachlis of Tisha B'Av is chazkes. All different types of ischazkas. Over the past 31 Tisha B'Avs or 30 Tisha B'Avs here in Shul, we try to think about it and to talk about it. But the tachlis is not to stay in that place. It's not to get stuck in that matzav, but the hischazkas. And the point of remembering is to have hischazkas, to see to it that these things that we do our best and we make the ishtalus Hashem Zebach wants us to fight against the Rishayim. To fight against the Rishayim. It used to be, I don't know if they still do it, but when they were part of the induction for many of the Chavre in Tzahal, in the army, was that they would take them on a trip to Poland and they would go to Auschwitz. A lot of the Israelis, and especially the young generation, they grew up oblivious to what happened. And they would take them on a trip to be ma'ora the sin, to be ma'ora the hatred, through that memory, to be filled with the determination that, Chavre, when you're going out to fight, you have to remember Mashahaya, and you have to fight with that memory. And you have to fight with that hatred, with that sin of Farah. But not to get stuck in that, not to stay in Auschwitz, not to sit around Auschwitz, but to go weiter. Aber sehr klar gadol. Sehr klar gadol. Kol davar chol ma shavadas Hashem shegremes la'atzis v'yesh. It's a klar gadol. Any machshava, any thought that causes atzus v'yesh, sadness and despair, l'chosech cheshik lahamshich, takes away from you a cheshik to move forward. Mekara b'yetz hara. The marker of that is b'yetz hara. The marker of that is the yetz hara. To stay in Tisha B'Av, that's the yetz hara. Kimi tov noilad tov. Because from something good, when there's something good, it gives birth to something good. If there's a Rebbe who's making everybody sad, it means zelo tov. He should be well. Move on. Get away from him. If there's a machshava that is lo tov, it means it's not coming from a place of tov. Tov is tov. It's very simple to remember that. Tov is tov. Good is good. Bad leads to bad. Good leads to good. Mirishayim yotzer resha, yetzer resha. Tzadikim comes out tov. Therefore, if your way of thinking takes you away from Yiddishkeit, weakens your resolve to be better, it means zelo tov. It means that machshava was not coming from a place of tov. It was coming from an Esav. Esav didn't pay, but it was not coming from a place of tov. Kimi tov nolad tov. It's very simple. Mitov nolad tov. From good comes forth good. Umira nolad ra. Very easy sentence to remember. And from ra comes out ra. And if you have this religious thought, but that religious thought that seems to be the religious thought, like the guy that's all upset about missing mincha over there by his brother, if from that comes out a feeling of Yeish, oh, what's the matter with me in Asus? I've messed up my whole record, and who knows what's going to happen? My kids are in danger now. Who knows what's going to happen to me? My parnasa, I'm going to lose my parnasa because I had my lucky charm, my minion, and now I ruined my batting streak, and now I messed up my. Who knows now? My parnasa is going to go bad. These thoughts of Yeish and Asus is a simon. She's a bum me'atzadara. It's a simon that thought is coming from Ra. Came from a bad place, not from a good place. Memela, kasha adam margish atzus v'dikaron. Therefore, when a person feels sadness and dikaon, depression, mikach shenira lo she'asa mashu shelo kiratzon Hashem. Again, I'm not talking about where there was clearly a violation. We're talking about something that where it seems to him, she'asa mashu shelo kiratzon Hashem, where it seems to him that he did something that was not the Ratzon Hashem. Hoyochal yos batuach she'ein lo mal yos hatzuf. He could be 1,000% certain that there's absolutely no reason to be sad. Or there's some person that he might be in a certain madrega, and he told you that this is not Kirtzon Hashem, and this is making you sad, it's making you depressed. It's batuach, it's guaranteed that there's no reason for you to be sad. That was where it came from, was a place of Ra. Even though the person that said to you might be a fine person, or the person that was a very chashuv person, and so on. Ein lo malios atzuv. There's absolutely nothing at all to be said about. Nothing. Not to reflect upon, not to think about, b'chlal, at all. Ki b'derech klal, because usually, b'derech klal, machshavas ke'elu, he mamish sheker v'tovos. Usually these machshavas are sheker, are lies. Just sheker. V'tovos and mistake. That's why it brings down a Rishon test. That's why they often come to you during the time of davening. So, klal, you see that these kinds of machshavas come, they specialize in davening. They come to you in such a time, davening. Which only confirms that the sheker, because Hashem doesn't want you to think about other things when you're davening. So what are these things doing there? So sheker. So thoughts says sheker. Kivdar klam machshavas ke'elu heim mamish sheker v'tos vein kam bechlal michshol. The bechlal wasn't any michshol. There was nothing. You didn't do anything wrong. Somebody else thinks it's wrong. You heard that it's wrong. You have to remember, you clarified it, but it's not something which is the rights of the opponent, so then it's not. Then it wasn't the michshol, period. The definition of a michshol, if it's something which is against the Ratzon Hashem. So you could find out. If you don't know, you look into it, you ask somebody. It's connected to Ratzon Hashem. So if this person tries to look into it, was it against Hashem's Ratzon that I went to visit my brother who was sick, and as a result of that, there was no place there to daven mincha with a minyan. As a result of that, I missed minyan. Is that what was the Ratzon Hashem at that time? Was the Ratzon Hashem that you stay with your brother? Was the Ratzon Hashem that you danced? So you could be mavar with that. So if you're not confident in your knowledge or you're not sure about it, if you're confused about it, then you find out. Ask somebody. Look into a sefer if you know how to do that. But ask somebody. And if it's not, so then it's finished. Done. Ain't kan bechlal mirshal. Va'afal hatzat sheken hayim mirshal. Bekom hakomen nisarach lasik b'zeh case. And then it's the second level. Even if there was a mirshal, is this the time to be thinking about it? Should I be thinking about this now? Or should I, or do I need to set aside a different time to think about it? Because right now, it's not going to be productive, period. It's just not going to be productive. And that's the mashal the Chavetz Chaim gave about a person who's on the battlefield, and he was, and it's a big balagan, and he was nicked, like something nicked by a bullet or something, and he's bleeding a little bit, nothing serious, something happened, and he was hurt a little bit, or he fell down and he hurt himself, and he stops and he takes out his first aid kit and he's sitting over there. Chavetz Chaim said, in 5 seconds he's blown to pieces. What are you sitting around over here handling with your boo-boo? They're all over the place. They're Rishayim. They're trying to kill all of you, and you're sitting around because because what happened to you? Because you scratched yourself, so now you're sitting here and you take out a Band-Aid, and because your mother told you how to take care of it, and you take out a little thing, to shmear, and you put a Band-Aid. In the meantime, they blow you up. So Chavetz Chaim says, "What do you do? Right now? You're in the middle of a war. Life. You got to run, move. No, so you don't stand around over here." Chavetz Chaim gave many mashalim about this. There was another one that he gave about, I mentioned in the past, that Chavetz Chaim said a mashal, there's a guy comes into your store, you're standing by the cash register, and a guy reaches in, the guy comes over there, and he reaches into the cash register, and he grabs a $5 bill or something, and he runs out of the store, and you go chasing him for 3 or 4 blocks. And the Chavetz Chaim said that he's got his partner standing right over there by the side of the store. Now the store is empty, and he goes in and he empties out the whole cash register, because you're running after this guy with a $5 bill, and he empties out the whole cash register. You're supposed to be staying in the store. 2 weeks ago on Thursday, my wife and I were taking the grandchildren on Shmuel Novi. We're taking them for ice cream. And there's this tiny little ice cream store. And there was no Chanvani, there was no balabas that was there. There was just, nobody was there. You look in the back, no one's there. Anybody here? No one's there. So my granddaughter Tis, she says to me, the owner is next door in the pizza shop. So I go next door, and there's a tiny little pizza shop over there. So I asked the guy, "Is the ice cream store yours?" He says, "Yeah." So I said, "There's no one there." He said, "You don't see that I'm busy?" Because there was some old guy getting pizza. So he said, "You don't see that I'm busy?" He says, "When I'm done with him, I'll come to the ice cream store, right?" So he's got these 2 little places. Ice cream and pizza. It's not milchiks. She's got these 2 little places, and he's like this: Ratzav Hashay. You ever in your life see such a thing? And he said to me, "If you can't wait, if the kids can't wait, so you go behind it and take whatever flavor you want, and I'll come in a little while. You come here and pay me for it." It's so beautiful, but it can make you crazy like that. But the tachlis of the Yitzhar is to get you to leave your store. Now you might get away with that on Shmuel Hanavi, but that's not going to work in Manhattan or someplace. So the Chavetz Chaim said that this is the Yitzhar. Yitzhar wants you to abandon your post. Your post is to be a determined Oved Hashem. So the Yitzhar will take a $5 bill. Kleine Kite will get something a little bit and I'll have you go mishigah for that, and running after it, and chasing it down the block, and going crazy over this thing that's a kleine kai. It's not a big deal. And then his whole point is to empty out the cash register. And emptying out the cash register is when you get depressed. That's when the cash register is empty. That's when this guy, forget about Mincha, he doesn't go to Minyan anymore because he messed up his record. So he doesn't go to Minyan. What's the tachlis? I'm not the guy. So that's the Yitzhara emptied out the cash register. And that's the whole tachlis, is to take away something which is comparatively small in order to get you into a place of dika'on, of depression, whatever, and then you get totally emptied out. So right now, that's not your ASIC. Right now, there's a war, and you're in this war. Your ASIC now is not to be sitting around putting on the Band-Aid. Your ASIC now is to be fighting the war. You'll take care of it. You have to take care of it, but you'll take care of it later. You don't do that now. You'll take care of it later. And if something went wrong and $5, yeah, okay. We'll move in Me'elo. However, it needs to be very clear, it's understood. Everything that we're talking about, not talking about when a person's B'chal Shabbos or eats something, or eats treif or something that's clearly an Issa. Al-Irak al-Chumis val-Sveikas. I'm talking about stringencies or Sveikas. Some say like this, some say like that. Yeshaimrim. So then you don't get into the whole thing, you leave it. So then you don't have to be strict. So that's what we're talking about until now. Or it's a certain madrega, like this guy's record. It's a madrega. That's what we're talking about until now. Sveikis, chumras, madregas. That's until now. Vishar, what we call in the yeshivas, shar inyan. It's an inyan. This is an inyan. What is the inyan? The inyan is that you just did something wrong because this is an inyan. What's the inyan? It's an inyan. What's the inyan? They say that the Yismach Moshe was very careful about this. So that's for me an Indian. It's an Indian because Yismach Moshe never did such a thing. That was the Yismach Moshe. I'm just Moshe. Not the Yismach Moshe. I'm Moshe. So what are you making me crazy with the Yismach Moshe? The Yismach Moshe had such an Indian. It's an Indian by the Yismach Moshe. It's not my Indian. Shar Inyanim. That word Indian. Shar Inyanim. Shebezeh imam achshav ma'iroseh so losim lev yoser l'salas is at tov mod. Now, when you have a thought inside of your head, when it comes to big things, to real serious deraisas or abundance halacha, then when you have a thought that you need to improve, that's good. But there's something you have to fix, of course, at tov mod. Imal yidezeh hayetzar menasel hapilos adam la'atzvus yet this is elaratz Hashem's bar. But if you see that right now thinking about it causes you to become depressed and to give up, it's a siman that's not the Ratzon Hashem. Look at Reish Nun. V'navi dugma lezeh. Let's give an example. I'm sorry, no, what he's saying at the end is that this last paragraph is that when it comes to those sveikis, chumras and yonim, if you have a positive thought of how to make it better, then that's toiv. That's what he was saying. In that area, then it's good. But those things, it's a positive thought. But it's a negative thought, or it's a sad thought, then b'chlal go away from it. That's only when it comes to sveikis or chumras or madregas or inyanim. In those areas, if you have a positive thought about doing something better and being mischazik, that's good. But if it's a negative thought, then you run completely away from it. Masha'en kain, however, that's not the case when it comes to something which is mamish halach, which is what he's talking about on the next page. So just a footnote, Reish Nun. V'navi dugma lezeh, an example, mimaisa shahaya eitzel bal Shem Tov. It's a famous Maisa from the Baal Shem HaKadosh. There's different girses of this Maisa. There's slightly different girses, but the overall message is the same. Shapam achas hidliges maktartoi miner shel chelev. Many of the tzaddikim used to smoke. and it was by them, it was a certain kind of avodah they had. It wasn't cigarettes of modern times, but they had different, they would smoke. And one time, the Baal Shem HaKadosh lit his pipe, or whatever it was, from a candle, where the candle was from chaylev, was a treifa candle. It was a candle that wasn't al pi halacha, but the Baal Shem HaKadosh is big. The Baal Shem HaKadosh. So he had some hana from this candle that he lit his pipe from, that was from fat, that was chaylev, that was also. How they used to make candles like that. They still make certain places like that. Kisar al pi halacha, she's a mutter. Because the Baal Shem HaKadosh held like the opinion that there's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to take a flame from a candle of chaylev. That's not the Nisra Hana. You're allowed to do that. Not like Bosa B'cholov and so on. So you're allowed to. Not like meat and milk. So you're allowed to. Kisar Pilach is a mutter. Upit on, and suddenly, Hayetzar Hichnis Lemachshava Shulai Zakein also. So he was smoking the pipe, and then he all of a sudden had this terrible thought about the other shita, about those who hold that it's also to take a fire for the pipe from chaylev. Behigish is a marpel zuchel atzvus, and he felt that this was making him sad. He had a moment of atzvus. The other shita, the haven shizemi had tzad. The Baal Shem HaKadosh right away touched this up. I mean, on his madreg, whatever that was, for a minute or whatever, he felt a nikud of sadness. Then he understood right away. Ra, remember, from Ra comes out Ra. So then he thought about this. But as Kibul Alatzma, listen to this, the end of the story. What a great ending. This gets so many Misnagdim upset. Those are the best stories, right? As Kibul Alatzma, he was a makabel on himself. Shema Ayoim Yadlik Rak Miner Chaylev. From now on, the Baal Shem HaKadosh said, from now on, I'm always going to light my pipe from this kind of a candle. Always. From Ner Chaylev. Great ending. Baal Shem HaKadosh says that. The Baal Shem HaKadosh he was able to say to the Sahara, I'm not one of yours. You understand? Don't think you're gonna come with this frumkeit to me. It's not gonna work with me. I always held that Al Pi Din, this is mutter, and it's based upon very strong shittas and halacha, that it's mutter to do such a thing. I've always done it. All of a sudden I had this machshava, ulai, perhaps the machmirim, maybe that's what I should have been doing, and what's wrong with me, that I'm smoking this pipe from the Neshel Chaylev. So Baal Shem HaKadosh said, from now on, I'm always going to do this. That's a Gevaldige Maisa. It's a very, very deep story. Vainu, she'ein loimer ma'ich li lahachmir. Elim zedover shemarpel l'svucha. A machnis. So the Baal Shem HaKadosh could have come to the conclusion, this is, maybe I should be talking machmir. And what's wrong if I'm machmir? And I had this thought of being machmir. So there was another sheet that is machmir. So he says, if this is the thing, it's marpel esruchai or machnes eis lo lachasam chadayma or mafsed lo yisay yishuv hadas. You don't do that. Maybe I should be machmir if it's something which causes sadness or takes away from you a certain simcha or yishuv hadas. By simcha v'advekus, it takes away from you simcha and dvekus. As I ein la asoysa. No. This came from a bad place. No. Ki oser l'shmor liyetzer. The rule is, you don't listen. Again, you don't negotiate with Hamas. You don't negotiate with Rishayim. Or the United Nations. Gam b'mitzvah shaloi. Even when it comes to Yer and Yonim. That's it. There's no negotiating with the side of Ra. Here, the last paragraph. So let's just see footnote Reish on Aleph from Godavan. Because if you listen to the Yitzhar with these things, again, let's use the example of the guy that missed Mincha because he went to visit his sick brother. So if you listen to the Yitzhar in such a thing, then what's happening is it means that you're giving more chashivas, more credence to the chitzonius of Avodas Hashem than the pnimis. What's the chitzonius? Your perfect record. Perfect record. Who cares about your scorecard? Your brother's not feeling well. So what are you talking about your scorecard? That's the chitzonius. Yeah, minyan, it's a nice thing, but that's chitzonius of what Hashem wants. The pnimis of Hashem, of the Ratzon Hashem, is to help your brother. He's machshav that he should have a perfect record, and that's chitzonius. That's himself. That's about his own feeling good. About his own. Yosim has Ratzon Hashem Amiti. What's the Ratzon Hashem Amiti? To serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chiyas of the simcha. What the Baal Shem Tov said? I'm smoking this pipe and doing my thing, my avodah. Not getting lost in cheshbainis and getting upset. Ulai like this, ulai like that. Which you see very clearly. Let's say you have this very frum guy, and he's an Amaritz, and he doesn't want to be Mechal Shabbos to save somebody's life. So there's a Jew that's dying, and this guy doesn't want to be Mechal Shabbos because he has this cheshbon. Shumar b'zeh, Shu ain't no Ovid Hashem, which we see that he's not Ovid Hashem, he's Ovid himself. He has a perfect record. He was never Mechal Shabbos. I'm going to go in a car and take this guy to the hospital? I never was Mechal Shabbos in my life. So when that came to the whole conversation, the Tchuya, Hutra, what does it mean to take care of someone who's sick on Shabbos? You have a perfect record. You never Mechal Shabbos. And the guy dies. And you go to Levi and you say, I'm so sorry that you died, but I really feel bad, but I have my record has to stay, So you go to Shiva, you say to the wife said, I heard you were there. You could have taken my husband to the hospital. Say, listen, lady, I have a record, I got my standing in Hashem's eyes. I'm a Shem Shabbos. I can't handle with your husband on Shabbos if I'm Shem Shabbos. And everybody understands. It's an insanity. It's not Avodas Hashem. Ella, it's not Ovid Hashem. He's Ovid himself. He just wants that he should be in good standing. Everything should be perfect in his way of defining perfection. He's not thinking of how to do the Ratzon Hashem. The Ratzon Hashem gets in the car and take the guy to the hospital. That's not what he's thinking about. The Ratzon Hashem. He's thinking about his Ratzon. But he calls it Ratzon Hashem. He thinks it's Ratzon Hashem. The question of an Ovid Hashem is Hayid Tav Beinei Hashem. Is this what Hashem wants? To bring the Shechina. The Hainu Shemater also he legalis v'ma'aseh v'smetzias Hashem's above ba'olam. His tachlis is to reveal Hashem's presence in the world, and to be happy to be close to Hashem. And the way to make Hashem happy right now, get in the car and take the guy to the hospital. What about my perfect score with Shabbos? Get into the car and go to the hospital. That's what I want you to do. That's the Ratzon Hashem. You should be mesamech yourself doing the Ratzon Hashem, not doing your own Ratzon. That's what it means to be an Eved Hashem. Do what Hashem wants, not what you want. And that should bring you simcha. Okay. That's Hashem.